Hi, hey, this is Jim from Jim's Archery, or Jim's Arrows, sorry. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about bow hunting history and the importance of the history and the importance of our traditions. Like I said, I go on these traditional bow hunting sites a lot, and it's mostly compounders and crossbowers trying to plead why a crossbow is traditional or whatever. Bow hunting in the U.S., probably the first real mention of it is a sport, or the English style. We're not talking about the Native Americans, but Benjamin Franklin had wanted to arm the Continental troops with the longbow. Reason being, at that time, the longbow was a much more effective weapon than the firearm. The reason firearms came into prominence had nothing to do with their effectiveness. Really started in England, where the English military started running out of the wood used to make bows because they weren't very nice to their neighbors. So following the Civil War, archery really died out. And then following the Civil War, bow hunting, or the bow as a weapon to get food on the table, came into prominence once again because Confederate soldiers, or ex-Confederate soldiers, weren't allowed to own firearms. So there was a resurgence. But later on, especially in the Victorian area, bow hunting or archery came into vogue with the Victorian longbow, and your average Joe couldn't afford a bow. Along came Fred Bear, who was an innovator, and he learned, this isn't a Bear bow, but learned, hey, fiberglass is a real good backing material. And he made the bow affordable to the average Joe. Now, a lot of people argue, well, Bear used fiberglass. That's not traditional. Yes, it is. It really affects nothing on the performance of the bow. It's not a mechanical device. It's a backing, just like sinew's a backing, just like laminated wood's a backing. It does not affect any part of the shooting of the bow. Anyway, back to the importance of history. When I went in the Army, first thing they teach you in the Army is the history of the Army. When I went to airborne school, first thing you learn is the history of the airborne. When I went to sniper school, guess what the first thing you learn? The history of the snipers. The reason you learn the history is because you don't know where you're going if you don't know where you've been. So, and I've said it many times before, when Glenn St. Charles and Fred Bear started bow hunting, and it started in Washington State, and they are the ones that started the sport of bow hunting. I've had a lot of people try to argue with me, oh, there was bow hunting long before. No, it wasn't. Basically, Glenn St. Charles did all the footwork, went from state to state, getting the bow seasons. Now, you gotta realize something. Back in that time, we're talking about the 1940s, 50s era. White-tailed deer were an endangered species. Elk were an endangered species. Mule deer were an endangered species. It was very rare. In fact, Fred Asbell tells a story of his first deer. He shot a doe, and he was surprised to have news crews show up at his house. One, not just because he had got a deer with a bow, he got a deer. And deer were pretty rare in those days. Hence the long seasons for bow hunting. No one actually expected at that time to actually get a deer with a bow. So they had these long, generous seasons for guys that really they didn't expect to get much. Okay, come today, you've got the compound and the crossbowers out there filling the woods, and for guys who actually practice the tradition of traditional archery, I'll give you an example. I couldn't get a tag for the county that I wanted to hunt last time, and the woods are filled with crossbowers competing for these tags. Now, do I have anything against a crossbow compound? No, but they didn't fight for that season. They just latched onto it. If they want to make a crossbow season or a compound season, that's great. That's really great. All the more power to you. Just like I have nothing against rifle hunting, if it's used in the rifle season. Okay. The next thing coming on the market is they've got air rifles that shoot arrows. I mean, where does it end? Why don't we start with the history and the traditions of traditional bows? And like I've said before, if you want to use a carbon arrow, aluminum arrow, all the more power to you. Probably shouldn't be watching these videos. This is really for true traditional, and yes, I said true traditional. A lot of people like to hear that. Well, you're saying if I don't use a wood arrow, I'm not traditional? Well, yeah, you are, but are you following all the traditions? No. I would suggest anyone who's using these carbons and these aluminums, try wood. At least try it. I guarantee you at 20 yards, there's not a difference between carbon, aluminum, and wood. Except wood's cheaper, and you can make it yourself. With a little research and a little know-how, you can cut, now a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times I buy my wood shafts from Three Rivers. But I have made arrows out of red osier, pine board, whatever. But that's about it on the history. Like I said, I think we should have some respect for the people who brought us these seasons. Not just that they brought it, but why they brought it. Back when Fred Bear and Glenn St. Charles started the bow seasons, it was really to rebuke what they saw as technology taking over hunting. You gotta realize, in their time, the scopes started coming on the market. Longer range ammunition started coming on the market. Electronic devices and all kinds of things started coming on the market. And they felt, it's getting away from our heritage. Let's get back into our heritage. So when they started the season, it was really, actually it was called a primitive weapons season. So it was really meant for primitive weapons. Just like the black powder season. There's people who, for years, followed the traditions of black powder. It's a big part of American history. The inline muzzleloader has no part in American history, just like the compound has no part in American history. Like I said, and a lot of people, you're saying a compound's not a bow. I'm exactly saying that. That one I'll stand by. Webster's definition of a bow is a weapon that fires an arrow, a piece of wood or similar material strung taut by a string. It doesn't sound like a compound. But let's go with the universal definition, which is any weapon that fires an arrow, unaided mechanically. Once again, compounds and crossbows do not fall into the definition of a bow. I didn't write these definitions, okay? Just like I didn't write the history of Fred Bear and Glenn St. Charles. But I just want to clarify that. And real quick, we'll actually save it for the next video, types of bows. But I haven't made a video in a while. This room was torn all the hell with jackhammers and everything. I've put it back together, so I haven't made many videos in a while. But that's it for this video. Thanks.